What is up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner. Joining me, as he always does, is our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ, real quickly, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We're going to talk about them a little bit later on in the podcast, so stay tuned for that. But really excited to be sponsored by BetterHelp. But AJ, we're here to talk about Carolina's non-conference men's basketball schedule for the 23-24 season, which was just released earlier today. And there's some interesting matchups on here and some changes as well. So I'm going to run through it real quickly. I'll pop a graphic up on screen so everybody can see it too, but stay tuned for this one and bear with me for a second. So October 27th, St. Augustine preseason game in Chapel Hill. November 6th, Radford in Chapel Hill. November 12th, versus Lehigh in Chapel Hill. November 17th versus UC Riverside in the Smith Center. Then the road trip really starts here, AJ. November 22nd versus Northern Iowa in the Battle for Atlantis. That's in the Bahamas. November 23rd, Carolina will either play Texas Tech or Villanova, still in the Battle for Bahamas tournament. And then November 24th, either Arkansas, Memphis, Michigan, or Stanford in the Battle for Atlantis. Skipping ahead 5 days, November 29th versus Tennessee, ACC Big Ten Challenge. That'll be in the Smith Center as well, followed by December 5th matchup with Connecticut in the Jimmy V Classic in New York. And then the last three, December 16th versus Kentucky, CBS Sports Classic in Atlanta. December 20th versus Oklahoma in the Jumpman Invitational in the Spectrum Center in Charlotte. And December 29th versus Charleston Southern in Chapel Hill. So, AJ, thoughts on Carolina's non-conference basketball schedule, because there is definitely some pretty tasty matchups in there, if you will.
Yeah, there's a couple of I had heard about Cal Riverside. I'm not sure if we had that in that thing that we did a couple of months ago.
I don't remember.
I don't know if it was, but I know that Cal Riverside name is crossed my path once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
Lehigh had not. Charleston Southern had not. And for a while, they were going to play UCLA. They were slated to play UCLA. It hadn't been formally released, but they were going to play UCLA in Atlanta in the CBS Sports Classic. That's now Kentucky. And the other thing that they were trying to decide, we had this back in the spring about UConn, but the date, nobody knew what the date was going to be for the Jimmy V Classic. So December 5th is early for the Jimmy V Classic. But I think it works out well for Carolina. I love the schedule for the Tar Heels, because we're going to find out what the team's all about. They have a wonderful opportunity to build, I think, needed confidence. Mm-hmm. They have to have confidence together. They need to cut the cord to last year. And I think winning some of those early games against really quality opponents will help them do that. And Hubert needs to find out what his team has. They need to find out who they are. Now, you go through Villanova and then in Arkansas or in Michigan, and then Tennessee, who plays well on the road, Connecticut and Oklahoma and Kentucky. You're going to know what you are. Mm-hmm. So Hubert's going to go into Christmas knowing his team. And he's going to, if he does play the bench, and we did a pod about playing the bench, if he does play the bench, he's going to find out what those guys could deliver, and he'll have an opportunity to still tweak and bring things together once they dive into ACC play. I'm also curious how the ACC schedule is going to lay out in here too, because you've got the ACC SEC Challenge. The first year at that, they host Tennessee. And then the following week, they play Connecticut. But do they have an ACC game that weekend, like that Sunday? Because that weekend is the weekend of the ACC Football Championship.
Yeah. So
last year, they played Clemson on a Saturday night in Charlotte, and the next day at like 4:00, they played Virginia Tech and Blacksburg. That was a fun trip for me, finishing my work at 5 a.m. and then going up there.
They also have a big gap.
That was right after my wife almost died too. Yeah.
Yeah. That was
so then there'll be
24 hours.
But they usually have like an 8-day period where they're off for final exams, and final exams usually come after the weekend of the ACC championship, because that's finals for everybody. And then school's out for basically a month, 3 weeks to a month. So does the Connecticut game fit right in the middle of finals?
They do have an 11-day gap, at least on the non-conference schedule, between that December 5th game against Connecticut. They don't play again, at least not conference-wise, to December 16th versus Kentucky. So you've got that 11-day gap right there.
Yeah, maybe finals start right after that. I'll have to check and see.
They also have a 9-day gap between the December 20th Oklahoma game and the Charleston Southern game on the 29th. I know Christmas plays a factor in that as well, so that has something to do with it. But there is 2 big gaps in those December matchups.
Well, remember last year they had the Virginia Tech game and then had Georgia Tech in December. So you have 2 weekends open for conference games. And the conference schedule should be out in the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I do think that those are, you don't want to leave, especially that second weekend, the weekend of the ACC championship game. Like, I don't think anybody should play in football.
No,
if you schedule a basketball in basketball, if you schedule a basketball game for the day of the ACC football championship, especially a non-conference one, and you're just saying, hey, we're not going to the ACC championship in football.
It's stupid. Don't you want the focus to be on the championship game in the conference?
But it's cool playing basketball Sunday. So I think that Sunday will probably be for conference games. And if you got to go from Tennessee to a conference game to go to play Connecticut a couple of days later, maybe they'll bring BC into Chapel Hill or something like that. Maybe
it would be a bad idea.
Lighter, but they generally will have a home and an away in December.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's an away the following weekend, that's a lot of stuff away from Chapel Hill. Again, they're going to be on the road a lot. So they're going to be tested, and being on the road a lot early last year did not serve this team well. Now they had a lot of other issues too. Not being able to shoot the ball was a big problem. Not meshing was a big problem. Not having or playing a bench was a big problem. Calling too many set plays was a problem. Not getting in transition was a problem. Not always handling ball screens was a problem defensively. So they had a lot of other issues than just the schedule, which is why for someone who is totally dialed in on the intel part of things, we're going to get a lot of intel. We're going to see how they not just play as a team against good competition. What kind of player is Elliot Cadell? We'll know at Christmas. How does Cormac Ryan fit in? Is he really a 3, or is he going to be coming off the bench? How does all this play itself out? Oh, and by the way, how do these guys handle all these games away from Chapel Hill against big time opponents?
Yeah,
I love it. I think it's fun. That's a lot better than playing. What did
got Lehigh and Chapel Hill?
Well, but Lehigh's a program that's had success. Let's not remember that the same day that Creighton clobbered Kendall Marshall, Lehigh beat Duke that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually on a radio show in Atlanta late that morning, and I actually said Lehigh can win this game because Duke was a mess at that point. I was covering Duke a lot back then.
Was that CJ McCollum? Was that the CJ McCollum?
Yes, it was.
Yep.
Yes, it was.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah.
That was the Duke team that was just sort of fractured a little bit at that point.
Yeah, I remember. Carolina fans definitely remember that as well. Don't get that twisted. And I still see pictures generating when the NCAA tournament starts. Every once in a while, I'll see a CJ McCollum tweet or photo from that game thrown up by a Carolina fan, picking fun at Duke. So, God, he's fantastic. Still,
he was really. See, I had to cover both games because I had to cover Duke as well. I had to cover both games. So I'm on timeouts. I'm writing on the Duke game, I guess, was first, right?
I think
Duke game was first.
I think
all I know is that I was courtside for all that stuff, and that was wild. But anyway, Lehigh is a program that has had some success. Charleston Southern, UC
Riverside, Radford.
Yeah. UC Riverside's in, I guess that's the Pacific Coast Conference.
I guess so. Yeah,
call that now.
You would know better than I would.
Yeah, I mean, they've changed it. A lot of California schools are in that league. They've got Northridge State, I think, in that league and stuff. So it's a small, low-end D1 school. It's a confidence-building game.
Mm-hmm.
It's the other games that make the schedule pretty meaty.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like Northern Iowa in the first game because I think teams should play Missouri Valley and MAC and Atlantic 10 teams. You know that swing where you got UConn on one end, you got UC Riverside on the other end. You got to have some stuff in the middle. You got to play Duquesne. You got to play Akron and teams like that too. I think that's always helpful in figuring out who you are as well.
Yeah, when we saw Carolina get to Northern Iowa years ago for, I guess it was kind of Marcus Page's kind of, I know how Roy used to, for every, at least wanted to take a lot of his out-of-state guys back to their home state for a game. Carolina went and lost to Northern Iowa up there. So
they were
by no means
the football basketball overlap. They were number one in the country going into that game. They lost, and that game was being played while football was playing in Virginia Tech, and that's the day they clinched the Coastal Division title.
Mm-hmm.
And all the media was in Virginia Tech. Nobody traveled up to Northern Iowa, but everyone's following that. So the press box in Blacksburg, oh my God, they're down 8. They're down 7. Are they really going to lose this game? And of course, Quinshaw Davis makes the catch in overtime and they beat Virginia Tech and they win the division title. And They lost in basketball. That was one of the few days where, like, a few times where a number one Carolina basketball team would lose, and people, the mixed emotions sided on elation because football won something significant that day.
Yeah, kind of masked over the fact. And early on in the season too, no need to overreact. And I know it's Northern Iowa, so I know there was an overreaction at the time for sure. But
I think it's an overreaction of basketball for Carolina.
Absolutely, man. It hurts to say the least.
There's an overreaction. Somebody's overreaction to this schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And they're probably saying, "Come on, AJ, Jacob, Cal Riverside's going to be a dangerous team. They could beat us."
Yeah, literally. I'm sure. And again, you never know. That's one thing for sure especially with a new roster and, early on in the season, you never know what can happen. But AJ, real quickly, we'll talk about the schedule a little bit more in a second, but I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. This show is sponsored by Better Help. Guys, sometimes in life we're faced with tough choices, tough decisions, and the path forward isn't always clear. And just to tie this in, some personal, not me personally, but, experience, Carolina basketball related experience of mental health. I know Leaky Black and, his previous last couple years at Carolina talked a lot about him dealing with anxiety, talked about a lot of him dealing with the uncertainty and the criticism and everything that comes along with playing at North Carolina, being a student athlete at one of the biggest programs in the country. And he was very vocal and open about that, which I think was been not only beneficial for him, but also helped a lot of people out who were dealing with their own mental health issues. And really, whether you're dealing with decisions around your career, relationships, anything else, it doesn't really matter. Therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate life, so you can move forward with confidence and excitement in everything you do. So trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values is like anything. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. And I know for me, sometimes if I can just talk through things with somebody, it's incredibly helpful. And, we all get in our heads too much. We all overthink things, and getting that stuff out, getting that uncertainty and that anxiety out by getting feedback by a trained professional in particular can bring a ton of clarity to your life, which is super important. So guys, if you think about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. All you have to do to get started is just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapist anytime with no additional charge. So if you don't like somebody you're talking to, you can switch and you're not going to get charged for that, which is great to make sure you're getting matched with the person that really can help you. So let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THI. Get 10% off your first month. Again, that's betterhelp.com/THI. I don't know why I'm spelling it out for you guys, because the link's already in the description below. Just click on it. It'll take you right over there. We like to make it easy for you guys. And again, all the links you need are below. A big thank you to BetterHelp. And again, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. AJ, real quickly, just to stay on the non-conference, we're going to wrap it up in a second because there's not but so much to talk about when the schedule gets released, except, some of our instant reactions to it. How do you think it matches up with Carolina's new look roster? I know you hit it on a little bit earlier, but a lot of new faces in there. And, I think 5 of Carolina's 11 regular season non-conference matchups are in Chapel Hill. So it's somewhat even, but a lot of these harder games, really barring the Tennessee game, are on the road or a neutral site. So there will be some tough matchups for the Tar Heels, and trying to bed in not only a freshman point guard, but a lot of new faces on the roster is going to present its own challenges. So do you think this is a good challenge and a good non-conference schedule to get the team prepared? Or do you think this could come with a lot of challenges that could maybe set the Tar Heels back early on, which I don't think is what this program and team really needs coming off last season?
North Carolina should always play a schedule like this.
End of podcast. The program. See y'all in the next one.
It's who the program is. It's what the program should always be. North Carolina should never view a schedule that is too much for it to handle. If that's the case, then there's a problem. So I don't think that's the case with this group. I think that it's going to speed up the intel factor. The head coach needs intel. Us covering the team want intel, and so we can gauge what this group is all about. And you're going to learn a lot more in the Bahamas. You're going to learn a lot more facing a team that plays defense the way Rick Barnes' teams play defense. And again, you're going to learn a lot more playing that defending national champ, which is a program that's here to stay again. They're back, and they're going to stay. They're going to stay back for a while under Danny Hurley. The same Oklahoma, it was a little bit down. I think they're a little bit of a crossroads right now with Porter Moser, but still a Big 12 program, a good program. Got a lot of history there. The Kentucky factor is the Kentucky factor. I think what's going to be interesting there is how many more people does Kentucky have in Atlanta than Carolina? Kentucky does well in Atlanta. Carolina does well in Atlanta too, but what's going to be the fan distribution there, the fan breakdown as far as how many UK fans versus Carolina fans? Because often when they play far away. They played in Vegas a couple of times, and it's been pretty even. But UK fans, man, they cruise on down to Atlanta and they go down there and they'll see that stuff. So that's going to be interesting there too. I like it also because this is a program that the last couple of years we have spent entirely too much time talking about quad one wins going into February and late February. This gives this program an opportunity to get some wins that are going to be quad one wins throughout. When you're looking to see what Ohio State does on February 26th, when it's next to last place in the Big Ten,
bad
to see if it could beat a mediocre Iowa team at home to stay in the top 50 of the net, so Carolina could keep its quad one win over them that was in Madison Square Garden. That's bad. This team has an opportunity to not put us in the median position to have to constantly talk about that with our readers, constantly talk about it on podcasts, and for them to not have to worry about it. This gives them an opportunity not have to worry about the tournament, just play to get better. I thought last year at times they didn't play well late because they were playing thinking about making the tournament or not making the tournament. And I think it affected them a lot, affected their preparation for some games, affected their mental approach going into games. Some of the games they were looser, they were just better. That's human nature, right? Mm-hmm. So go ahead and win a couple of games in the Bahamas, beat Tennessee, beat Oklahoma. And then if you could split with UConn, Kentucky, they're going to be sitting pretty. They're not going to have to worry about things unless they just fall apart. And I don't think this team's going to do that because the composition suggests that it will get better, not get worse. Last year's team got worse.
Yeah. No doubt. And I think, we'll see what happens with this non-conference schedule when the season comes around, but a lot of challenges, but a lot of good opportunities, like you said, for Carolina to know what kind of team it has by January. And I think that's incredibly important. And even before that with a lot of the other matchups before ACC play starts as well. So guys, we want to hear from you. Let us know your reactions to this non-conference schedule. Do you think it's too tough? Do you like the matchups against these harder teams? And are you worried about Carolina maybe struggling early on, especially with a lot of new faces? We want to hear from you guys. Get involved on Twitter, links below, Facebook, links below, or just come sign up, $8.33 a month, and you can get involved in our premium message boards where we post every single content item, and you can go in there if you're a premium subscriber, interact with our awesome community, talk to our awesome subscribers, and it's just a really awesome place over there. So again, $8.33 a month, links in the description below, TarHeelIllustrated.com. I've been THI staff writer Jacob Turner. He's been THI publisher Andrew Jones. This show, again, is sponsored by BetterHelp. Check them out, betterhelp.com/THI to get 10% off of your first month. Links in the description. All you got to do is click it, go sign up, and take your mental health more seriously. I'd highly recommend it for everybody. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. See you on the next one. Thanks.